Well, hello, friends and family from around the world. This is Mike with Morning Dew, daily events worldwide, and we are on September 3rd, 2021, and welcome to another surviving day on the planet. Welcome to the Daily Dew, looking at space weather, world weather, and of course, natural disasters, volcanoes, everything else affecting humanity, looking at the last 48 hours, starting on our sun, as we did have a pretty sizable C.M.E. erect away from the outgoing position, and as well we have two sunspots getting ready for an Earth-facing position. You can see them building here in the last 48 hours. Incoming imagery, little Earth to scale show, which is just still amazing. And now looking at the outgoing, we did have a very sizable C.M.E. whip away. We had early images 2 days ago, but here is the full image of that C.M.E., large plasma filament taking off from the sun in an outgoing position, and you can see on the top side there, plasma all the way around. So very active in the outgoing. Luckily, this was not an Earth-facing event because it was very sizable. Just looking here in the investigative area, and a little slowdown of that large coronal mass ejection. Stunning imagery coming out of the Solar Dynamics Observatory. And I want to thank everybody for tuning in, and of course your patience during this time. Looking at multispectrum here, showing all of the events. Coronal mass ejection, and as well two getting ready for an Earth-facing sunspots. As well, we do have a coronal hole to talk about. It's not very visible here, but here it is. We did have that Earth facing over the last 2 days, and then another one building in the southern hemisphere, just below that pretty active sunspot region that blew up in the last couple days. Looking at ISWA here, showing that large event, outgoing position, coronal mass ejection, and it looks like it's just missing stereo B while giving a glancing blow. But thank God that was not in an Earth-facing position, taking off from both sides of the sun, outgoing. Looking at LASCO 2 and 3, not really showing it here on the last few images. This is 6 hours plus. We're missing a few hours with LASCO 2. Looking at our solar X-ray flux remains low, while story in B range and as well geomagnetic activity is slightly elevated. Looking at our real-time solar wind sitting at 381 kilometers per second, but we did have quite a spike up to about 420, 430 overnight, and that was with that space weather that was expected from 2 days ago. Looking at Schumann resonance for today, a power of 14. And a quality of a 9.7. Looking at earthquakes the last 24 hours, it's been pretty busy today. Just over 300 earthquakes across USGS. We're going to start out here with a small earthquake swarm going on in White City, New Mexico. We've seen about a dozen earthquakes throughout the day today. Largest being the 4.2. As well, Quinton, Oklahoma, 3.0 there. West Coast, California, seeing minor activity. Largest being 3.8 here in Teenage, California. As well, 2.6 there, Petrolia. And as well, Bandon, Oregon, seeing a 3.0, 10-kilometer depth. A lot of activity up into Stanley, Idaho, 3.1 there, 7-kilometer depth. Largest today, the 3.6. Otherwise, pretty quiet across the North American plate, other than that swarm going on in Mexico. Hawaii seeing minor earthquakes today, largest being a 2.8. Increased seismicity coming back to Alaska, as forecasted 2 days ago in the Daily Dew. I see minor activity move into the region, 4.7, the largest. And then our largest and deepest earthquake today, a 5.8 in Pornusk, Russia, at a 581 kilometer depth. That's the deepest and largest earthquake today, as well, just 4.4 there, 96 kilometer depth. Northern Mariana Islands, 4.6. That's by that pagan volcano that has just awakened. Very quiet through Indonesia and very quiet Kermadec into Fiji, waiting for a larger earthquake, especially after that deep one in Russia. As well, a 4.8 here in accredited, Russia. Pretty quiet through the Atlantic plate, but South Sandwich Islands still rumbling away, largest seeing a 5.7 in the region today. Seen about 8 earthquakes there. Peru, 5.0 at a 10 kilometer depth. And as well, the East Pacific rise with a 5.4 and a 4.8, both at a 10 kilometer depth. El Salvador, 4.4, Ecuador. Minor earthquakes through Dominican Republic. And let's have a look at the last 7 days for earthquakes. Deep tectonic movement through the Kermadec and the Fiji, through Russia and Fiji, as well deep quakes in South America. Minor continued rumbles through North America, but still expecting a larger, shallower earthquake to follow in the next 24 hours. So heads up, everybody. This is what our planet has been doing for the past 7 days. Lots of activity, especially through the South Sandwich Islands, the Michael volcano. Let's have a look at the Pacific Disaster Center, showing the most recent volcanoes getting updated. Suwanosejima in Japan, and as well Fuego in Guatemala, Reventador in Ecuador, Pagan in the United States, that's Mariana Islands, Karamiski, Russia, Sabancaya in Peru, Sangay in Ecuador, Nevadas de Ruiz, Colombia, Semisnopochnoi, United States, White Island volcano, New Zealand, Semeru, Indonesia, Ibu, Indonesia, and as well Talika in Nicaragua, Shivelich, Russia, and as well Etna in Italy. So that's about 10 volcanoes getting just updated today, but still, we are looking at an active 41 across the planet. Stay tuned for the volcanic activity report. Major flooding, as we know, thoughts and prayers going out to everybody through New Jersey and as well Connecticut into New York. Massive flooding, flash floods that came from Hurricane Ida. And we're just going to look at the last 7 days here, satellite imagery. Hurricane Ida penetrating the coastline in Louisiana and then heading straight into the northeastern United States, gaining strength again just off the coast and sitting there like a vacuum, sucking all of that Atlantic moisture right over and onto New Jersey. So again, thoughts and prayers to everybody affected by Hurricane Ida. Billions of dollars in damage since landfall a few days ago. As well, a pretty strong system that came through the Gulf of California is now sitting over the Hudson Bay. We have one tropical storm to talk about in the Atlantic, Hurricane Larry, which most likely will be a Category 4 or 5 in the long range. Stay tuned for another update on that. Tropical Depression number 17, as well in the Pacific, most likely will die out, but observing a pretty strong and moisturous low-pressure system heading into BC and Alaska this week. So heads up, you've got days of rain heading towards you, northern BC and Alaska. As well as some flooding reported here in Spain just yesterday. Pretty big, tight system there got stalled over Spain. Let's have a look at the 5-day forecast brought to you by Meteor-Earth and of course, daily events worldwide. We're going to start out here in home base for now, Brantford, Ontario. Looking at some cool temperatures moving in for the week. We've got rain, scattered showers over the next couple days, but then watch for a pretty big system to be coming in from northern Ontario in the long-range forecast. Pretty big and moisturous, very windy event, and this is the day that I will be heading back to Alberta. So hopefully we can have some at least fair weather to fly. Watch for Hurricane Ida to continue on through Nova Scotia today, and then another system moving in. 5-day forecast here. West Coast, BC, you can see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 days of rain. And in the long range, watch for a pretty strong system to head through Alaska. Strong winds, lots of rain. As well, a tropical depression here in the long range forecast will be developing Gulf of Mexico. Stay tuned to Morning Dew, keeping you updated, aware, and prepared. Overlooking the Atlantic Ocean, tropical depression, Hurricane Larry. You can see a tightly whipped and very strong storm in the long-range forecast, most likely, as I said, Category 5, heading towards Bermuda. Big high-pressure ridge moving into most of Europe this week, except for northeastern parts into the border with Russia. Pretty big systems there. And as well, a very big cool-down to commence through these systems as they're being thrown around the North Pole. Overlooking Russia, pretty dominant low-pressure system here as well, just north of China. And watching a very wet week ahead for India and parts of southeastern Asia. Low-pressure system moving into India this week, taking about 3 days to get through. And then strong daily evaporation rains throughout the week, heavy rains, and possible typhoon development. You can see those two circles there developing. Those are low-pressure systems. So very intense week ahead of us. Overlooking the Pacific, pretty strong storms coming out over South and North Korea. Big high-pressure ridge moving in for Australia after the rain and as well the wind that you will be affected over the next 2 days, parts of southeastern Australia and the coast up into Brisbane. Overlooking New Zealand, high-pressure ridge leaving by Tuesday. Overlooking Pacific Ocean into Hawaii. No major weather systems affecting you. And no Pacific storms developing in this forecast. South America, daily evaporation rains, northern, but then southern. Watch for this very strong low-pressure system to develop here through Argentina and the border with Brazil. Watch for a very intense extreme weather, possibly very large hail and strong winds associated with this very large low-pressure system whipping out of South America. Overlooking Africa, no major weather systems except for that low-pressure system moving through central parts of Congo, long range, and as well some pretty cool temperatures. South Africa, yet again, just seems to be waves of these cold temps swinging down, and as well snow in higher elevations. Definitely a lot going on in this world, and our governments and mainstream media is still blaming us for global warming. That has to stop. It's going to happen nonetheless. I'm going to leave you here looking at the southern hemisphere versus the northern as we are on the verge of the magnetic reversal. Much love. Stay aware and prepared. Stay young and have fun. And get your morning dew. Please share this video today. Bye-bye now. If you enjoyed today's video, please hit that like button, subscribe, share with your friends and family from across the world.